Let's have a look at Azure Policy, folks. I said I was going to give you a quick walkthrough tutorial on Azure Policy, and today we're going to create a policy that prevents us from deleting a virtual machine. It also will include preventing us from deleting a storage account, but we'll just demonstrate the virtual machine one. And in this case, folks, we're just looking at the Azure Policy Microsoft page, and this will be a starting point, and I'll share the link for this so you can then drill into all the underlying resources, folks, that will help you design your policies and apply them at whatever level you need to, and do a multitude of things, folks. You could talk about this all day. This is a great way to govern your resources in your organization, folks, in bulk, rather than going into individual resources and applying, for example, a delete prevention by putting a lock on a resource. This can prevent, deleting resources for anyone in the organization, folks, once this policy is applied. So it's a good way to govern resources, folks. Policies are a great way to govern security as well at the high level, folks. At the Azure Resource Manager point, folks, that's where this policy kicks in, when these resources are going to have something done to them, and this policy will kick in and prevent, in this case, deletion of virtual machines. Let's have a look at the policy dashboard, folks. Here you can see a number of compliant and non-compliant policies, folks. These are ones that I've created. The ones that are non-compliant, I just left those in place so you can see what the output can be. In order to create a policy, folks, we can look in here to definitions, and what you can see is a number of built-in policies. You can go and create a policy from scratch, from the ground up, but it's sometimes best to take something that's already existing and just cater it to your needs, which in this case we will do. You can here go in and filter them out. In this case, I've block written. I've already did a search on this, and I'm looking to prevent deletion. So there's one in here that'll be specific for my needs. So if I scroll down, it's this one here. Do not allow deletion of resource types. Now at this present time, this here is basically targeting all resource types. What we're looking at, folks, if we wanted to apply this policy, we could then assign it, and we're going to be able to select our resource types. The way this policy runs, folks, is it will look at a list of resource types disallowed for deletion. They will be the resource types that we will select in our assignment. Okay, the effect is the deny action. The deny action is when this policy rule looks and it finds that resource type, it will then prevent that action of delete. If we go up to the top here, and this is the built-in policy, folks, as you can see here. If we want to create, and we will look at it, a custom one based off this and cater it to our needs, then we can do so. And we can do that by hitting duplicate definition. But if we wanted to just apply this here, assign it at a scope, for example, our subscription level, management group level, or a resource group level, folks, then we can click on assignments here. There's no assignments at present. So if we click in here to assign policy, and we will get options here to assign this policy. If we come to parameters, deselect that box there, folks, we can see the parameters that were in that policy. There was a deny action, there was also a disallowed. We want to deny action. This here might take some time to show up what the resource types are. So you can see here now, folks, this resource type that was in our policy, we get a drop down list, and we can select any resources that are registered in our Azure portal here and prevent them from being deleted. So if we wanted to go in and find virtual machines and select that, there we go, Microsoft.compute/virtual machines. That's the resource provider type, folks. We've got the resource provider, Microsoft.compute, and the provider type is a combination of that /virtual machines. You can also go in, folks, and put in an auto remediation. We don't need to do that for this resource here. We can put in a non-compliance message as well, a custom one. We don't need to do that. We can just go ahead and create. And that will show up as created the policy assignment. If we come back to our policy, come into assignments, do not allow deletion of resource types. We want to then go in and view compliance. We can see here, folks, that we have selected that one, just Microsoft.compute virtual machines, and the action is the deny action, which is to prevent it from being deleted. If we come into view compliance here, like I said earlier, there'll be a compliance show up here. Currently, the resources aren't being picked up, okay, because this takes time to go through. That's definitely a point to note, folks. If you've created a custom policy and you think it might not be working, this here could take anywhere up to an hour, I've seen. It definitely varies. You can force the compliance, folks, by actually running some commands from the command line. So this will take a while then to show up compliance, folks. So sometimes if we just refresh the screen, and that will be enough just to show the compliance, folks. So we can see the other one has come up now, which is called other, and it's for 3 virtual machines that I've already created, folks, in my Azure portal. So if I go in to virtual machines, I've got 3 virtual machines here, folks. This policy, even though it shows like that these are now protected, folks, you might want to go and test this here. Obviously you wouldn't want to test it on a production level virtual machine. You want to test this in the dev environment first, folks, and test it on a virtual machine that you know you haven't got anything pivotal to any project that's running. So I'm going to test it in this first one here. All I'm going to do is select it, go over to delete, type in delete, hit delete, and hit delete again. And this policy is preventing this from being deleted, folks. It's doing exactly what it says on the tin. Do not allow deletion of resource. That's the name of that policy assignment. It's doing exactly what it says on the tin, folks. This policy, to prevent this from being deleted, cannot be bypassed. The only person that can obviously do anything to this is an owner or contributor that can amend the policy. They cannot come in and delete this resource, folks, even with those permissions. They can amend the policy, for example, remove the policy or edit the policy, but they cannot come in and delete these resources, folks. That's exactly what this here is needed for. These policies do exactly what they say in the tin, protect our resources in this case from being deleted. Okay, those 3 are protected. If you added more virtual machines, folks, or if you removed them, then this here will change from 3 and go up in numbers or down accordingly. Okay, you can see the effect type is deny action. If we go into here, details, we'll get a little bit more of the compliance details. In this case here, it takes time because this here has just been applied. It might need another refresh. We can do that. So after a little bit of time, folks, it shows the compliance state now as being protected, and that's the same for all 3 of these resources here. And obviously you can see that they're shown here in the resources by compliance states. If they weren't compliant, then there would be something flag up here like a non-compliance number count. Okay, but in this case, it's picked them all up and they're all protected. Now, if we didn't have this policy assignment, we could go in and delete them VMs. So if I come here and I hit delete assignment, do you want to delete assignment? Do not allow deletion of resource types. Yes. If I go back to my virtual machines, this will be in effect straight away. There's no protection on these virtual machines. I go in here now and try to delete this one again. Go to delete. Type in delete. And delete. It's in the process of being deleted. That resource is gone, folks, because there's no policy protecting it. Alright, so that's how effective those policies are, folks. Yep. So if we come back in here and we hit refresh on this compliance, this won't be here anymore in a few minutes. Once this here gets refreshed a few times, you can see now there's a bit of a lag with this compliance. So always give this time, folks, before you think possibly if you've created a custom policy and you think it's not doing its job, just give this compliance time. If we come back to policies and again come back to the definitions here and all policy types, if we look at custom policies, folks, you can see I've created a number of custom versions of this policy, folks. I've got 3 here and I just wanted to show you different variations of them because of the different options you can select. So if we look at the first one here and we come down and we look at the list of resource types for deletion, I've got it exactly the same as the actual original built-in policy. This is now a custom policy, folks, because I basically took a copy of the original, and all you do to take a copy is just duplicate the definition Like if I go to duplicate this one, it'll give me the option to just apply a scope again. In this case, apply it to the subscription level, select that. Once I go to assign this here, you'll see I'll be able to apply it to a resource group if I wanted to. I can give this a new title, I can give it a different description, and I can give it a category. I can create one by typing it in here, or I can use the existing one. There's a little bit of lag here again, folks, in my system, so just give this time to populate. And once it has populated, folks, you'll see you can use existing ones from a list in here. Once they're populated, there you go. I'm just going to pick general, and the policy itself will be available for editing, folks. You will see here that you just get policy rule and the minimal amount of the actual data at the top here. You can see like the policy name and the descriptions already here as well. So what we could do here, folks, in the strong type resource types, we could actually give it a list. As this is saying here, it's an array. List of resource types disallowed for deletion. So it's expecting an array, a list, folks. All right. If you want to get a richer experience with this, it is recommended in the Microsoft documentation, folks, to create these policies in VS Code, utilizing the Azure Policy extension. And in that sense, you will be able to get this in a more wider screen, and it's a little bit easier to follow through. So in VS Code, folks, you can see you've got a lot more room to work with. You've also got Microsoft Copilot as well for VS Code. So in this case here, I've added some allowed values, which are, as it says here, an array, a list, and in this case they're virtual machines and storage accounts. If I put a comma on there and hit enter, this here's giving me, you know, what it thinks I also want to add in here as Microsoft provider types. But I just want to keep it the way it is, so I'll come back to there and just keep it like that. Okay, folks, but it just gives you a bit more room to work with, a bit of a richer experience there with the features of VS Code. And we've got the Azure Policy extension in here. If we look over here at the extensions, this is the extension you want here, folks, Azure Policy, and that'll give you then the richer experience of working with these Azure policies. It's the one that's recommended by Microsoft. So if we take this policy, folks, and then edit it to include a set list of only Microsoft provider types that we want to prevent from being deleted, we can come in here and obviously edit this one. So if we come to here, just hit a comma there, hit enter, and if we come back to VS Code and we pluck out exactly what we showed in the video before, put this in here, folks, we can now save that policy, and the two here, virtual machines and storage accounts, will be the ones we can select from this list when we go to assign the policy, which you'll see in a minute. Down the bottom here, you can see we don't have any role definitions. The reason for that, folks, is we're not modifying. We would need permissions to do that, folks, because we're modifying resources. The exact same permissions that apply to us as users, and, you know, amongst resources, which resources can do to other resources, then they will need RBAC, role-based access control. Okay, exact same thing applies to policy, folks. So just prior to hitting save, folks, we just want to give this a name so it's reflective of a new policy definition, because it will mirror the same policy definition that's been created, and it's just a little bit harder to filter out than the one that we want. So if I come in here, I've already called a few different versions. I'm just going to call this one version 4. And if we come down and save that, you can see this policy hasn't been changed because we duplicated this. There will be another policy definition, folks, back in the main portal policy definitions list. So if we come back here and it's not here straight away, we're looking for the one with version 4 appended on the end. Just refresh this and we see it down the bottom here. If we click into there, we can see, folks, we've got the two Microsoft provider types in this policy here for selection. And if we go to assign this, then we click in here, assignments. I'm going to assign this policy. We click in parameters. You just want to deselect this box here. Resource types that cannot be deleted. And if we drop this box down, folks, we can see that those two types are the ones that are in there now. And we want to select the virtual machine one, deny action. Just come back here. Make sure this is applied at the scope we want. We can go down. I've got a number of resource groups, and do this at the resource group level, apply it there, folks, but I'm going to keep it at the subscription level. Obviously, it'll apply for all those resource groups then. I'll just leave it at that, review and create, and click create. And that will have applied straight away, folks. Look in this assignment here, and we look in compliance, and we don't see that this other version is there straight away. Like I said, the bit of a lag time in that happening. Even if we refresh it here, that might not have come up straight away. It might not. In this case, it hasn't. If we go to our virtual machines and try to delete one of these virtual machines, that policy will be applied straight away. Again, if you want to try it in a non-production environment, is the best way forward. Just from testing here, I've tried this before, this will be prevented there, like we've seen previously, from being deleted. Even though the compliance state has not shown up here yet, it just takes time. So if we give that a bit of time and then come back again. So again, after a quick refresh, folks, we can see that the two VMs that exist in the portal are the ones that are now protected. What you can also do, folks, with these policies too, is if you want to duplicate this one again and come in here, and if you removed this strong type, what this will do is it will allow you to actually enter the Microsoft provider type just manually by typing it in, which is not a great way forward, folks. Manual processes we don't like. We want to keep it as automated as possible. So keeping that strong type there is definitely the way forward. So just utilizing this blueprint again, folks, to complement this tutorial. The Azure policy is sitting at the top of this tree, folks, at the management group level. It can be applied at the subscription level, resource group level, all the way down through the tree. And the resource manager there sitting at the top. And that's what happens, folks, when you do the API call. The providers are in the Azure cloud provider. The resource types are available, and then they're triggered through that resource manager via API calls. That policy will kick into life, folks. Okay, and any resource providers that you've got registered in your Azure portal will then be affected by whichever policy that you've got in place, folks. There's a multitude of them. Just another question you might ask yourself, folks, as well, is why don't we use the built-in ones only? There are hundreds of them and they cater for a lot of needs. The only thing that I would say around that, folks, is these are controlled by Azure, which means they will also be updated by Azure. Now, if you were applying these built-in policies to an organization and you wanted them to do specific things and something gets changed by Azure, it might break your resources, folks. That's then a reason that you would want to create the custom policies so that you control exactly what's going to happen when the policies are applied. So that's why we create custom policies, or that's one reason to create custom policies, folks. But I leave a lot of links in here that will be little rabbit holes of research that you can dive down and complement this tutorial and help you learn more as well. And as always, folks, if you've got any questions, please drop them in the comments, and like and follow for more if you like these tutorials, or if you want me to cover anything, please drop them in the comments as well. I'm happy to lay more meat in anything. Okay, so as always, I leave this one with you, folks, and wish you all the best. Take care and good luck.